Hi, I'm Dr. Dave Janda. Welcome back to our Insider Insight Show. I'm honored to have back with me someone I consider a very dear friend and someone who is an incredibly courageous patriot who, her and her family and her brother and her sister-in-law and their kids have been persecuted for the past 3 years. It is not an overstatement to say that General Michael Flynn and his entire family have become political prisoners of the deep state for the past 3 years. It's my honor to welcome Barbara Flynn Redgate. Now, a little background on Barb. She is the proud sister of retired Lieutenant General Michael Flynn and the trustee of the Mike Flynn Legal Defense Fund. So, first check you need to know about as far as where you need to follow after the interview. MikeFlynnDefenseFund.org. MikeFlynnDefenseFund.org. In addition, Barb is a retired high school physics teacher for 30 years, which is why she is such an attention to detail, as you'll hear in the interview, throughout the interview. She's the wife of a retired Navy aviator. She is the mother of 3 daughters. And Barb is also the proud sister of 7 other siblings. And she is an incredible patriot and a freedom fighter extraordinaire. Barb, welcome back to the Operation Freedom platform and DaveJanda.com.
Hey, Dr. Dave, and hi, everybody. It's so great to talk to you guys again. And I can never thank all of you, Dr. Dave, and everyone out there enough for all of your help with us. We never would have been able to endure these 3 years without everyone's prayers and messages and all the comfort and the strength you guys have given us to see this through. And, you know, it's like Sydney and General Mike are single-handedly facing down the worst corruption this country's ever seen. Just keep sending prayers. We especially need to keep sending prayers to President Trump. He's fighting the worst corruption this country has ever faced, and every day we need to stand tall with him. I really feel that it's critical right now. He's at a critical point right now where he is really ready to unravel the whole corrupt government that's been in charge for God knows how long, at least the 8 years, maybe longer that we're now experiencing. So please say extra prayers for President Trump today. He's being attacked, and AG Barr, that they have the strength. I know our voices are really helping. You can tell by what's happened yesterday. He's really listening to us, and he hears us, and he sees our messages. And it's just incredible knowing that he's really with us, and he's really listening to what we're telling him and how we're helping him survive this horrible crisis in our country. So yeah, go ahead, Dave, if you have some questions for me.
So Barb, what I'd like to do is I'd like to paint a portrait for all of our viewers and our listeners. And I'd like to do that. I believe the most effective way to do that is dissecting the timeline of when this persecution started,
okay,
of your brother, General Mike Flynn, and your family. And a very special shout out at the beginning of this is that if it were not for Sidney Powell, I believe General Flynn would be in far greater trouble.
Oh, it's horrible. I mean,
if it were not for Sidney.
Sydney is like a combination of Joan of Arc, Wonder Woman, and Margaret Thatcher all rolled up into one. And she, I know there's a greater place for her after this, but at this time, she is this incredible woman that is defending our country, with General Mike by her side, and knowing everything he knows, and her strength. It's just incredible to be part of it. Really, it's a frightening thing what we're going through, but it's also it was meant to be. It's destiny. It's definitely the destiny of General Mike and Sydney at this time in our lives.
Well, in fact, Barb, and you've said this many times, and it's very true, it's not just General Mike Flynn on trial. It's every American is on trial with this. Because if they can do it to a 3-star general, they can do it to 320 million Americans.
Oh yeah, this is all about eliminating our duly elected president. I mean, General Mike was the number one target to take out first, because he would have dismantled all of these weaponized intelligence communities. I mean, the CIA, the DOJ, the FBI, the NSA, I mean, the National Security Council, which they finally are starting to say they got to get rid of all these guys that they had too many people there, so all listening in on the president's phone call. This is frightening stuff. So yeah, they took out Mike because he was a week away from really unraveling everything. 1 week away, and they got him, and we're still finding out all the horrible things that happened.
Well, in fact, Barb, in this text between Strzok and Page, and throw McCabe in there and Comey, they talk about an insurance policy. Really, Barb, when you get right down to it, the insurance policy was taking out General Flynn, who was on the right hand person to President Trump.
Yeah, because Mike is like Trump, General Mike is like Donald Trump. They were outsiders, and they came in, they weren't politicians. They just knew that they needed to help our country. And Mike saw the intelligence, corruption. He saw Hillary Clinton using a private server. He had, knew that Clapper, he knew the Iran deal was horrible. He knew Benghazi was a mess. He knew the ISIL, that Obama used to call it, was not the JV team. It was metastasizing. So, I mean, he knew it was his duty to come forward. And Trump must have seen himself, going through with his own children and grandchildren, that he had to do something now or it would be too late. So thank God the two of them came in, and connected. And then, of course, when they won, it was just mind-blowing. And they're still trying to take that away from us, that those guys, won the election, that President Trump is the president. They're still trying to eliminate him. But if they took out Mike, that would be close to taking out Donald Trump. So, yeah, here we are.
So let's look at the timeline, Barb. Okay. So the first date that pops up that everybody focuses on, which we're going to get to in a minute, but there's actually a date that precedes this date everybody focuses on. The date everybody focuses on is they say, well, General Flynn was targeted on January 24, 2017, when Comey arranged the ambush interview at the White House just 4 days after President Trump had been inaugurated, 4 days after General Flynn got to his office at the White House as the National Security Advisor to President Trump. They say, Comey arranged the ambush interview. Obviously, McCabe, who called General Mike to tell him that a couple agents are coming by to chew the fat with you a little bit, and their names are Strzok and Patenka. Everybody focuses on date, and we're going to get to that date. Mm-hmm. But there's a date that actually precedes this, where it shows that the takedown of General Flynn was premeditated by the deep state, in particular the Brennan, Clapper, Comey, McCabe, Strzok, Page, Patenka group. And the date is August 17th, 2016. There was a briefing held during the campaign, of which Patenka, who was one of the two people who interviewed General Flynn on January 24, 17, Patenka was sent to, and he knew that General Mike Flynn was going to be in the room.
Right.
He was sent, because this is outlined in the IG report, that Patenka was sent to monitor General Flynn and his reactions to what were being presented at that August 27, 2016, supposedly briefing, which was really a fact-finding mission for the deep state sedition. Am I wrong on that?
Yes, no. So Joe Pienka is his name. He, this is the summer before the election. So just put that in your head instead of sometimes a month or a year. It gets kind of confusing. So think the summer before the election, that August before the election, they used to do these intelligence briefings. The guy who was the presidential nominee, who was Trump, and his advisors would go in. Okay. And so Pienka was in there, and he was, what we now found out through the IG report, he was the supervisor of the Crossfire Hurricane spy ring. Okay. And now, and they have his name redacted. They call him SS1 in the IG report, but we all know it's Pienka, thanks to all the digital soldiers out there. So Pienka used to go in, and they did it more than once, but this particular one is actually verified in the IG report. And his job was to just kind of watch General Flynn's body language, his mannerisms, his tone, and report back. So now we know that they were creating, trying to find out how to catch him in a lie, right? So they're listening in on all his conversations, because remember, they had the page FISA, the fake Russian dossier FISA. So they were listening in on all of the Trump team's, phone calls and emails, everything, not just phone calls, but every electronic device that the Trump team had, and especially General Mike and President Trump. I mean, let's forget about Page. He was just the door that opened up all of the spying that they were able to do. And this is just to kind of throw in what we're going through now with the fake Russian dossier FISA abuse. This is Boente and Comey, McCabe, and Rosenstein, who signed those two FISAs that were after the president was even elected, and also Sally Yates. So, so those guys were spying on General Flynn. And I'm just going to say it again. Pienka was the supervisor of Crossfire Hurricane spy ring.
And that's critical. That's absolutely critical. Yeah. Because they were doing all this spying, in addition to what they were doing on these parallel platforms where they couldn't get caught. So there was all this is illegal surveillance occurring. Okay, not just on the bad FISA stuff,
all to take out the president, and to take out General Flynn first. Let's get him out first.
So what they did at that August 16, 2017, or August 17th, 2016 meeting is they were getting a baseline of how General Flynn answered questions, his truthfulness, how he behaved. They were just laying the groundwork for when they were going to go in the future, when, just in case, the insurance policy, just in case President Trump won, so that they could jump his case immediately after President Trump took office and essentially set him up. So that takes us to the January 24th, 17 ambush interview that Comey McCabe set up, where Strzok and Petenka showed up at the White House to interview.
We're just going to send a couple of guys over. That's what Comey told Mike. And of course, he was just he thought, I mean, these are our allies. I mean, these are supposed to be our number one fight, FBI agents in the country. I mean, it's unfathomable to me now that I know what I know to even put those words out, that these guys, they were such dirty cops. But at the time, Mike thought they were the good guys. He's been overseas fighting all these horrible terrorists, and he comes back and he gets ambushed by who he thinks are his allies, two FBI agents.
And Comey admitted it was an ambush interview, that they did not inform the counsel of the White House, the head lawyer in the White House, that they were going to be sending somebody over to actually interview General
interrogate.
Interrogate. Better word. Interrogate General Flynn.
It was an interview, but it was really an interrogation.
Right.
And they were going to create a perjury trap.
Exactly.
That's why President Trump could never go and speak to any of these people, because they were going to take words and twist it, and you can't stop it either, Dave. Like, that's what I've learned. We've all learned that have been paying attention to this. They can take, statements and reword it and rephrase it, and you can't fight that. How do you fight that as a regular?
Well, that's what they did to General Mike. Because now here, Barb, here's what the bought-off, lamestream, fake media, tentacle of the deep state won't tell the public. When Pietenka and Strzok interrogated General Mike on January 24th, 2017, they took notes. And when they took notes, they formulated them into a 302 report that they were supposed to turn. It was mandated that they enter it into the Sentinel system of the FBI within 5 days.
Right.
Okay,
yeah.
so that would be January 29th, 2017.
Right.
Well, Barb, to this day, the great Sidney Powell, litigator of the century,
I know,
keeps asking for that original 302, and they keep saying it's, quote, missing.
Well,
Barb, I've talked to IT experts extraordinaire. There's no such thing. There's no such thing as a missing 302 in the Sentinel system.
So we know that's what Sydney, if you ever follow her on Twitter, she puts that in every one of her tweets. Give us the 302, the original 302. Where's the original 302? So, that's where we're at. And we know now.
And Barb, tell me if I'm wrong, but Sydney has presented information that she is aware of a witness who actually saw the original 302. And on the original 302, Strzok and Pietenka stated they felt that General Flynn did not lie. Is that correct?
Yeah. He never lied to anyone. I mean, he was being, he was being truthful the whole time. And the thing that a lot of people have seen, Devin Nunes has come forward, and he just said on a video, there's a video clip I tweet all the time, it says, he was a witness. We were witnesses to the FBI briefing us, and then it went to the highest levels of the DOJ that General Flynn never lied. I mean, why would Mike lie? There was no reason. He was totally being himself. These two guys come in, they're asking him questions. They already knew the answers to the questions because they were listening in on his conversations. He still hasn't seen the original transcript to this day. That's mind-blowing to me. He has never seen the original transcript of his legal conversation with Kislyak, doing his job, de-escalating any Russian attack on us or, Russian payback that was going to happen because of the dumb Obama, kicking people out of the country for no reason, just to do another Russia hoax move, I suppose. But anyway, Mike's never seen, nor Sydney, the original transcript of the legal conversation that he had with Kislyak. And neither has this judge. I mean, how can this judge sentence General Mike for a false statement, a supposed false statement, when you've never seen the original transcript of the phone call and the original 302? And then to top it all off, Sydney got a letter about a month ago or 2 months ago now, and the Van Grok had to admit that they swapped the names on the 302 that they did turn into Sydney, and they had Pienka's name on the wrong one, and Strzok's name on the other. I mean, it's a mess, Dave, and we all know how corrupt they are.
And here's the other thing, Barb. So they lose the original, but then all of a sudden, an edited version of the 302 shows up on February 10th. And then another version on February 11th. And then another one, February 14th, 2017. And then another one, finally, February 15th, 2017.
Yeah.
Barb, and they were all edited, and it appears they were edited by McCabe and Lisa Page.
Yes.
Who weren't even in the room when General Mike was interrogated.
I know, and they're not allowed to do that, but of course they do, because they've got to create a perjury lie. They've got to create, so these dirty cops can create a lie, can create a crime. They've created a crime, is what they've done. And I know everybody knows a lot of this, but I mean, think of all those 302s that they edited so many months down the road. That's May, when he was interviewed in January. I mean, it's just insane. And now, you know, at the time, who was the AG but Rosenstein? You know, he's not going to do anything about that. They want Trump. Rosenstein signed a fake FISA. Mm-hmm. You know, he signed one of the fake Russian FISAs and fake Russian dossiers.
He signed the fourth one.
He signed the last one. And, you know, he's running the Attorney General office, you know, and Boente is over there. And Ray, of course, is completely worthless. He's got Boente as his chief counsel. Boente signed one of the FISAs, too. Everybody keeps forgetting about some of these characters that were there. So Rosenstein's there. He knows all. He's not turning over any 302 to Sidney or General Mike, or even Mike's previous counsel, which was a colossal, not just a failure, but it sounds like they were involved so much in protecting their own law firm that they were willing to throw Mike to the wolves, to the sharks. You know, they were going to protect themselves before they were going to protect General Mike, because they're all part of the swamp, too.
So he's interrogated January 24, 2017. We have all this goat rodeo with all these 302s that are being edited and made up. But then we fast forward to December 1st, 2017, later that year, 10, 11 months later, when General Flynn pled guilty to one count of lying to the FBI.
Yeah.
Now, many people say, now wait a minute. General Flynn didn't lie to the FBI.
Right.
Why? Because this bears repeating, Barb.
I know, okay? I know.
People say, well, then why did General Flynn plead guilty to this one count of lying to the FBI when he did not? Explain to our audience, because this is where the deep state is just plain evil. Explain to our audience why he pled guilty.
Yeah. Well, what happened was, at the same time General Mike is interviewed, the 24th, 2017, January 24th, 2017, he's getting this weird, crazy pressure from the FARA office to file a government FARA form. And so he's got a lawyer at the time. And then he gets all this pressure, and he hires, and his original lawyer, a woman, she says, hire this Covington law firm. And so he ends up with the Covington law firm because they're the #1 international FARA filing law firm in the country.
And FARA stands for Foreign Agent Registration Act, FARA. Okay, go ahead, Barb. Yeah.
It's a government form, and it's called the Foreign Agent Registration Act. Mm-hmm. And but in the fake news media, they call it just, you're a foreign agent. So anybody that works with international companies, like if you work for Toyota or any of these companies, Mercedes, I'm just thinking of car companies because people can relate to all the foreign car companies that we have in this country. So Mike is working with a foreign company, and so Kellner Covington, this law firm, tells him to file FARA. Okay, so they go through this FARA filing. Well, this guy, David Loffman, is running the FARA office. And I've said this to you before on your show, Dave. If you go to David Loffman Talks with Rachel Maddow, you'll get to see who David Loffman is. He calls our president a clear and present danger. He is a bad actor, bad DOJ guy. He's running the FARA office at the Department of Justice. He works under Sally Yates. Anyway, so they pressure my brother with going after my nephew, young Mike, okay? Mm-hmm. And what they do next is, and I'll kind of make a long story short, they get a search warrant and they take all of young Mike's electronic devices. They confiscate his computer, his cell phones, everything. And they threaten my brother that they're going to put his son in jail for falsifying FARA documents, the government form, for lying on those forms, and they're going to put him in jail for 15 years. They threatened my brother that they'll put his son in jail for 15 years because he supposedly lied because he was part of my brother's company, and the FAIR form was false.
But Covington, the attorneys, are the ones who filled out those forms.
They're the ones that filled it out.
Yeah.
So Covington, Mike spends, $1 million at that particular time. I think it was $750,000 or something outrageous like that to fill out the form. They filled the form out. And the other part, because I sat through his partner's trial for 2 weeks, the FARA office also helped them fill out the form. It's like when you go to the DMV and you have all your documents and you have or your taxes, and you do all your taxes with your CPA, and then you take it to the tax office, and the tax office says, well, you need to fill this out, or you need to turn this document in. The same thing happened with the FARA form. It's a government form like any other government form, and so they then threw this frightening accusation, and Covington went along with it. Now that we understand everything, they, behind General Mike's back, it was like, they went along with, they didn't want to be accused of, the Covington law firm didn't want to be accused of not filing the FARA form properly. So who are they going to take care of? They're going to take care of Covington. They're not going to take care of General Flynn. But Mike didn't know all this was going on behind his back. So there was discussion that this Covington law firm had, who filed the forms, and Mike didn't even need to file a FARA form, because you only file a FARA form if you're working directly under the control of a foreign government. And Mike was not doing that at all. Right. He was working for a guy that was from Turkey who had a company, and he was a businessman. And
in addition to that, right before he signed the plea, he asked his attorneys to call the FBI and find out what did those two guys, Strzok and Piatenka, who interviewed me, did they believe I lied? And tell me if I'm wrong, Barb, but his attorneys from Covington left the room, made a phone call, and came back and told General Mike and his wonderful wife Lori, we talked to him and they believe you didn't tell the truth.
I know.
But in fact, what they did say was they believe he did tell the truth, but Covington's lawyers lied to General Flynn and his wife Lori so that they would sign the plea agreement, and ultimately it would get Covington out of trouble and put General Flynn in the box.
Yes. So exactly. So Covington, the two guys, that's Robert Kellner and this guy Anthony, and there's another guy in there, Smith. Anyway, and of course it's Eric Holder is one of the chief head lawyers in the law firm. Yeah. So poor Mike, he thought he had to file a FARA form because he wanted to do everything precisely by the book, whatever. Mm-hmm. So anyway, these guys, they completely set Mike up. We now know that Covington law firm, they didn't care about Mike and his son and what they were going to face. They were not going to let their law firm be accused of not filing a document properly, because it would collapse. The whole law firm would fall apart, because that's what they do, and no one's ever been charged with FARA filing forms. No one's ever been charged with falsifying a FARA form, because lawyers do it for you. The FARA office helps you do it. It was all one big scam,
Now that was December 1st, 2017, when the guilty plea was entered. Then 11 days later, on December 12th, 2017, Judge Sullivan, who's the judge now overseeing this case, wanted the prosecutors to produce all of the evidence, exculpatory evidence that showed General Flynn's innocence. He said, produce that evidence to General Flynn. Now that was December 12th, 2017. Barb, to this month, February of 2020.
Right. Gosh.
Have they done that yet?
No.
Right. And they haven't done it, they refuse to do it, correct?
Yeah. It's all, and now the scary thing is, I got to be careful saying, well, the judge, he says everything is irrelevant too. I mean, these people, it is frightening. So there's nothing relevant. The 302 is not relevant. Everything is irrelevant as far as Van Grok and these Mueller leftovers, I call them.
Let's put the shoe on the other foot, Barb. If the judge had ordered General Flynn to turn over information to the prosecutors on December 12, 2017, and he hadn't done it in a month, a year, 2 years, do you think they would have filed contempt of court charges against General Flynn?